Welcome to our new video. This here is the new Philips OneBlade, specifically the OneBlade 360. We have tested it for you, and you'll find out whether it's any good and what all this has to do with this modified OneBlade 360 here. So just stay tuned. We'll start with a brief overview. Okay, let's start with some important information. The new Philips OneBlade 360 comes in a face and body variant, meaning it includes body grooming. Accordingly, we have two skin protection attachments included, as well as a standard blade in addition to the 360 blade. This is often included with the face and body variants, because Philips states that the original blade is for the body and the 360 blade is for the face. Why is that? It's simple. The normal blade only tilts back and forth and is rigid otherwise. The 360 blade also tilts back and forth, yes, but additionally also to the left and right. And this makes it a bit more flexible when shaving and can, at least in theory, adapt better to facial contours. So one might think that it's essentially the blade that makes the difference between the normal OneBlade and the OneBlade 360, and to a certain extent that is true, but unfortunately, it is a bit more complicated than one might think. With the 360 blade, a new OneBlade has also come onto the market with a slightly different design, but also with slightly different features and technical data. If you look at the whole thing in its entirety, you quickly come to the conclusion, okay, this is probably the new OneBlade 360. On the other hand, it also seems to be the case that the new 360 blade also fits the old OneBlades, and so we get what we call a modified OneBlade 360, and that is, at least in essence, the old OneBlade equipped with the new 360 blade. This is a clever marketing strategy by Philips. They have now practically upgraded all devices. But we will now take a closer look at whether the new 360 blade is really any good and which variant is ultimately better. So, at least as far as the basic data is concerned, both devices already seem to be very similar. Both are completely waterproof and can therefore be cleaned under running water and, if you wish, also used in the shower. Accordingly, the devices can also be used for wet shaving, with foam or without. As for the blade, we have a blade system here that moves 12,000 times per minute. To still produce safe devices, there is a double protection system consisting of a glide coating and rounded tips so that you don't cut your skin. And as far as wear is concerned, the blades last up to 4 months, and when they are no longer good, an eject symbol appears. At the end of the day, this means one thing. We have ongoing costs here. As for the cutting area, both devices offer a total of 2 options, shaving with a naked blade and trimming with the included comb attachment. This is adjustable from 1 to 5 millimeters in 5 length settings. The comb attachment is the same for both, and we can already reveal we didn't like it that much. More on that in the practical test. But what comes in handy is that one of the skin protection attachments offers a 3 millimeter cutting length. Besides the 3 millimeter attachment, we also get a skin protection attachment, and that is of course nice to have, and can be quite useful under specific circumstances. Now, however, we come to the first difference. The modified OneBlade does not include the body attachments. At the time we bought the products for this video, it was only available in the face variant. However, if you wish, you can buy a body set separately. Apart from the original blade and the 2 skin protection attachments, the scope of delivery of both OneBlades is otherwise virtually identical. 360 blade, comb attachment, charging cable, and protective cap for the blades. That's all there is. As far as the battery is concerned, the whole thing has to be looked at in a more differentiated way. Here we have a lithium-ion battery in both devices and a runtime of 1 hour. So far, so good. They differ in terms of charging time because here the modified one has 4 hours and the new one has 1 hour plus a 5-minute quick charge function. So we have top values for the new OneBlade 360. With this, it not only beats the modified one, but also many shavers and beard trimmers that we have already tested here on the channel. Neither provides mains operation for safety reasons. And as far as battery monitoring is concerned, we have a light ring on the new OneBlade 360 and a light dot on the modified one. One can argue about taste here, but the crucial point is that neither device tells you exactly how much power it still has, unless you use the OneBlade Daily Care app. Then things look a bit different because the new OneBlade 360 is significantly more compatible with the app than the modified one, and thus offers the possibility to monitor the battery level in detail in percentage. Other nice features would be the blade change indicator as well as the style mirror. That's all nice and well, but you don't necessarily need it. In our opinion, the most interesting feature is the battery information in percentage. By the way, you can find the link to the new OneBlade 360 and also to the modified variant under the video in the description. And otherwise, we now come to the essentials, namely our practical test. If you take both devices in your hand, both initially make a well-made impression. all parts fit together well and so on. But there is one point we simply have to talk about, and that is the design of the new OneBlade 360. In itself, the thing lies well in the hand, and it feels good. And we would also say it feels better and more agile than the modified one. But the device is also very thin and delicate like a small stick. And in addition, at around 60 grams, it is the lightest OneBlade ever. So basically that sounds positive at first, but you really have to be careful that the thing doesn't fall out of your hand, especially because Philips has also refrained from rubberizing the grip. These grooves that you have instead do help a bit, but they are by no means as effective. So we would actually consider whether we would prefer the modified OneBlade 360. Yes, it is a bit heavier, and it also feels a little clunkier, but at least it has a proper rubber coating, and therefore simply lies much more securely in the hand. Where both devices do not differ significantly, however, is when it comes to intricate areas, like under the nose or on the chin. Both sometimes don't get along so well there. Especially on the chin, it can sometimes be really fiddly, and that despite the 360 blade. Yes, it brings a bit more movement into play, but you can't claim that this would be a groundbreaking difference compared to the standard blade. Although an attempt is made to address this basic problem of the OneBlade, that the blade is so rigid, and it does get better, yes, but unfortunately the problem is not yet gone. If you look at one or the other modern shaver and how they actually manage to follow the contours, you notice that Philips still has a lot of development to do there. As far as the feeling of safety is concerned, it's primarily about whether this double protection system of the blades actually works. And the simple answer to that is, yes, it does. But what primarily works is that it doesn't cut too close to the skin. As a result, you ultimately have fewer skin irritations, or at least that's how it was for us. Please don't misunderstand. We have also had shavers here that were even better in that regard, but that's complaining at a high level. On the whole, both OneBlades do a pretty good job, but as we said, it's primarily about not cutting too close to the skin. The disadvantage of this is, of course, that you don't get as close. It almost feels like a wet shave at first, but if you look a little closer or feel it, you notice that the stubble is not quite as short. We would say it's like a wet shave plus 1 to 1.5 days. If that's enough for you, then you've hit the jackpot with the OneBlades, because shaving with a naked blade is simply the great strength of these devices. They are so incredibly efficient and uncompromising and also so fast. We haven't seen such a fast shave with this quality in any other device yet. Electric shavers always leave a few hairs behind. You have to go over it 1,000 times. And with wet shaving, you also have a lot of preparatory work, and you have to be a bit more careful as well. The OneBlades, on the other hand, are quickly unpacked and then simply shave everything away. And it almost doesn't matter whether you take the new or the modified one. Both do it more or less equally well in terms of shaving quality. We already had the feeling during testing that the new OneBlade somehow shaves a bit more comfortably, perhaps also needed 1 or 2 fewer passes. But the difference is of course hardly noticeable because both devices fundamentally work according to the same principle and the blade is ultimately the same. So, after this really positive impression, we now have to vent a bit, and that is when it comes to trimming longer hair. In this case, both OneBlades are hardly usable, so both devices have this adjustable comb attachment. But on the one hand, it's super difficult to adjust because you don't have a setting wheel, but only a small roller that you have to press down. And on the other hand, even if you manage to fiddle it all into place, the thing simply doesn't cut the hair short very well. You have to go over it 1,000 times, and even then, the result is not really all that satisfying. So our tip for you, if you don't want to shave, but want to keep a beard at a certain length, then just get a decent beard trimmer. Check out our channel, we have already tested dozens of these devices. As for body grooming, we naturally tested both devices, even though the modified OneBlade 360 doesn't actually come with a body set. But since you can theoretically buy it separately, we equipped both devices with a standard blade and then got started. To illustrate the whole thing a bit better for you, we carried out the test on our arm, and the result was almost predictable in the end. Here we have the new OneBlade 360. You can see the result with the skin protection attachment, specifically the one that is supposed to cut as close to the skin as possible, and once the result with a naked blade. And you can see for yourselves, with a naked blade the result is good, that was to be expected. And with the attachment, the result is significantly worse. The same applies to the modified OneBlade 360. Here the results were, in our opinion, the same, or at least very, very similar. Of course, you are not forced to work with these body hair attachments. They are there to reduce the risk of injury in sensitive areas, but we personally believe that it also works relatively safely without an attachment. So, if you can, you should rather work with the naked blade. Only if you go through particularly sensitive areas, then you should perhaps be a little more careful, or perhaps even put on the skin protection attachment. because with skin folds or similar, it can otherwise happen that the blade pokes into the skin. Let's come to the conclusion. In our opinion, both the new and the modified OneBlade 360 are intended as, let's call them all-in-one devices that are supposed to shave and trim, and if necessary, also provide body grooming. But the bottom line is that the trimming results were rather poor. However, the devices are all the stronger when it comes to shaving. Very fast, very efficient, even compared to some electric shavers. But it's not quite as short as a wet shave. For shaving and contouring, we can nevertheless recommend both OneBlades more or less unreservedly. In any case, we would not choose the device based on shaving quality, as they are simply too close to each other. What can be said, however, is that the modified OneBlade 360 lies more securely in the hand because it has a rubber coating, and the new 360 has better specs and features, which can be seen, for example, in the shorter charging time or the more detailed battery level indicator via the app. In this respect, it depends a bit on what comes closest to your personal wishes. We ourselves tend to make it more dependent on the price in such cases. If you are interested in one of the two OneBlades, then take a look under the video in the description. There you will find all the links. And if you're still not all that sure whether you want the normal OneBlade or perhaps rather the Pro model, then check this video here. There we compared both with each other, and hopefully that will help you find the right one.